All right, so let's get into the story of how Venezuela was forged. This isn't just a history lesson, It's a real journey, packed with these legendary hunts for gold, absolutely brutal wars for freedom, and the rise of these larger-than-life leaders who would go on to shape not just a nation, but an entire continent.
So you gotta understand, before it was ever a country with borders on a map, Venezuela was, well, it was an idea. It was a prize. I mean, think about it. Christopher Columbus sees this lush coastline and calls it a land of grace, like it's a biblical Eden. Then another explorer, Alonso de Ojeda, he sees these stilt houses on the water and they remind him of Venice. So he calls it Little Venice, or Venezuela. And that's the name that stuck. It was this land of incredible promise, and it just pulled explorers and conquerors right to its shores. But here's the thing. This new world wasn't new at all. I mean, of course it wasn't. It was ancient. We're talking long, long before any European ships ever showed up. This land was already home to, an estimated 1 million people? And these weren't just scattered tribes. We're talking about complex civilizations that had been flourishing for thousands of years.
And this is what I'm talking about. Just look at the sophistication here. Up in the Andean region, you had the Timoto-Cuica people, and they were, by far, the most complex society in pre-Columbian Venezuela. I mean, these guys weren't just farmers. They were brilliant engineers. They built these irrigated terraced fields and massive tanks for storing water. And just look at those ceramics. It's so clear they were also incredibly skilled artists. Okay, and here's a fact that I think is just amazing. It connects that ancient world directly to your dinner plate today. The Timoto-Cuica, they're the ones credited with inventing the arepa. Seriously, that absolute staple of Venezuelan food, its history goes back centuries, way, way before the Spanish ever set foot there. All right, now we get to one of the weirdest chapters in all of colonial history. I mean, seriously, for a little while, a big piece of the Americas wasn't run by Spain or a king or any empire. It was run by a German banking family. It was, for all intents and purposes, a corporate colony. How weird is that?
So yeah, the name just got a direct translation. The Spanish Venezuelan, it became the German Klein Venedig. Both mean Little Venice. But the big question is, how on earth did a German bank get control of a Spanish colony? Well, the answer is pretty simple, and it's one we still understand today. Debt.
So here's how it went down. Back in 1528, the King of Spain, Charles I, he was deep in debt to this German banking family, the Welsers. So to pay them back, he basically handed over the rights to the province of Venezuela. And what was their main goal? Their only goal, really? Find the legendary city of gold, El Dorado. So they went for it. They even founded cities like Maracaibo. But after almost 2 decades of searching, finding nothing but trouble, and spilling a lot of blood, the Spanish crown finally said, okay, that's enough, and took the charter back.
So, after that weird German chapter wrapped up, Spanish rule came back and really solidified its hold. But that wasn't the end of the story. Fast forward to the early 1800s. People are getting new ideas, inspired by revolutions in Europe and North America, and a brand new, fiery chapter is about to begin. The long, brutal war to finally break free from Spain. And here it is, July 5th, 1811. This is the moment Venezuela becomes one of the very first colonies in Spanish America to just come out and formally declare its independence. It was a huge revolutionary moment, but, declaring you're free and actually being free are two very different things. Winning that freedom, that was going to be a long, long, brutal fight. And if you're going to talk about that struggle, you have to talk about this man, Simón Bolívar. He's the guy who would come to define the entire independence movement. He started out as a wealthy Creole from Caracas, but he became this absolutely brilliant military strategist and a true revolutionary visionary. It's no wonder he earned the title El Libertador, the Liberator. And let me tell you, the road to freedom was not a straight line. Not even close. It was this rocky, brutal path. The First Republic? It collapsed in less than a year. So Bolívar tries again, establishes a second republic, and that one falls too. It was just this grueling process of defeat, getting exiled, coming back, and just relentless fighting. They finally secure a lasting independence in 1821, but even then, Venezuela was part of this bigger federal republic called Gran Colombia. It wouldn't actually become its own separate sovereign country until 1830.
And this was the final nail in the coffin for Spanish rule, the Battle of Lake Maracaibo in 1823. It was this massive, decisive naval victory for the independence forces. It's what finally drove the last of the Spanish troops out of Venezuela for good. And just like that, 3 centuries of colonial rule were over. But here's the twist. You win the war against Spain, you think everything's going to be peaceful, right? Wrong. A whole new kind of conflict was just getting started. This time, it was a fight for control from the inside, and it would cast a very, very long shadow over this brand new nation.
So to really get what happens next, for basically the next 100 years of Venezuelan history, you have to know this one word, cogito. So what is a cogito? Think of a military strongman. His power doesn't come from a government office or from winning an election. No, it comes from his personal charisma, from brute force, and from the loyalty of the armed followers he controls.
So what happened was, after the great heroes of independence like Bolívar were gone, the country didn't just magically become a stable republic. Not at all. Instead, it just fractured. The rest of the 1800s was just defined by these brutal power struggles between all these different regional caudillos. And the result? Constant political chaos, autocratic rule, and one devastating civil war after another. So, as we start to pull all these threads together, you can really see these powerful historical patterns starting to take shape, can't you? On one hand, you have this land of immense natural promise. On the other, this constant, violent struggle for who gets to be in control. And right in the middle of it all, that enduring figure of the strong man. And this wasn't just, a few messy years after the war. No way. As our source material points out, Venezuela was stuck in this cycle of political turmoil and autocracy, and it was dominated by these caudillos well into the mid-20th century. That's a long time. This pattern of instability became really deeply ingrained in the country. When you look at it all, this history just shows this incredibly powerful cycle, doesn't it? You have this land of immense promise, that land of grace that gets caught again and again in these profound and often violent conflicts, from the obsessive hunt for El Dorado to the bloody wars of independence, and then to the age of the caudillos. It's just a story of constant struggle. And that leaves us with a really big, crucial question to think about. What on earth will it take to finally break that pattern?